What's up? We're back and we're here to talk about Zack Snyder's The Snyder Cut for Justice League. We're going to get right into it. It's a spoiler review. If you guys don't want any spoilers, click off, watch the movie. It might take you a little while. It's 4 hours. Then come back because we're going to break down the whole film. It's a lot to break down, so let's get right into it. Nick, let's just go over initial thoughts. How did you feel about this movie?
I feel like I have to preface this, like this for this movie in particular, that like in some ways there was like little to no way this film was ever gonna like disappoint me. Like I feel like I just have to say that personally for me, just as like someone who was like campaigning for this version for a while. Like just the idea that like, oh, it's like finally getting released. I was like, I don't really like, doesn't matter like what happens after that. I was like, it's getting released, like he's getting the job got done for him. So like in some ways I was always like, I will accept it in whatever way. I will positively accept this in any way it comes. And so getting into the actual movie itself, like this is to quote Jared Leto, this is the work of like a madman. Like it's just like insane. Like I've been telling everyone, I'm like, they've been like, oh, you saw it, how was it? I was like, this is like wild, like uninhibited, like ambition. Like this dude went for it. And it's just so crazy. So I mean, I don't have to say the obvious in that it's better than the 2017 version. And it's just like you gotta wonder what Warner Brothers was thinking. Like there's so much stuff that was like cut or like just like rewritten. You're like, who was in the room, who went like when they approved this. It's just so it just this is like it completely like follows through on Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and just it's just an insane, like it's an insane film. I was just really like blown away by like so much that happened. I was like, this is it. This is Zack Snyder's Justice League through and through. And so I'm glad that like we got like justice for these characters because like they deserve a big like epic thing, and I think it's safe to say we got a big epic thing to showcase them.
I mean, what I'll say is the biggest thing coming out of this movie, my first thought, and this is someone who wasn't on the train for
Yeah,
Justice League, to be honest. I was kind of like, whatever, like, I don't know, this seems kind of ridiculous that we're campaigning, but I'll watch it if it happens. And it happened, and I watched the film, and I'm like, that was my thought. What was Warner Brothers thinking that it just is really confusing. But at the same time, I'm confused because, well, I think the Snyder Cut is a really, really good movie. I think it's really good. It's my favorite. I like it more than I like Man of Steel. It's my favorite DC film.
mhm.
Um, Maybe even more so than Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
Um, I am really a fan of this film, and I was not expecting to be perfectly honest. Um, but I'm confused on both ends. From one end, I'm like, how was this ever supposed to be a movie that released in theaters?
Mhm.
Right? I don't see how this film would have gone cut up
Yeah.
to 2.5, even three
Mhm.
hours.
Right.
Like the stuff you would have to cut, I don't know. It feels like there was a lot of this movie was jam packed, and there
Mhm.
was really a massive disconnect between what Snyder wanted to make and what Warner Brothers wanted to make.
Yeah,
And instead of compromising, both sides were just here and here.
that's fair.
And it really seems like Justice League, it couldn't have been better than it would have been on HBO Max. And
Yeah.
for all the stuff that happened with Justice League in 2017, I think it made it that way it could be this good. Because I don't think this comes out in theaters. I don't think I have the same reaction to this movie.
I think it would have been tricky. Like I do understand those thoughts. It's like like somewhere in the multiverse, everything went according to plan. So was this still what we were gonna get like at the end of the day? Which I agree. That's a good, I guess, just yeah, a good thought, like good like pondering of like how how would this have worked if just things had gone according to plan? As like assuming that this is like taking it as it is as we have it today.
I mean, let's get into the film though, because like
Mhm.
we'll talk about some of the Warner Brothers stuff at the end, because the executives there, and this is coming from someone who loves HBO and loved to work at Warner Brothers. I
Right.
just don't understand. Like, I'm just being honest, because I can't cap with y'all. But like, what were they thinking? But we'll get into that later, because there's some serious flaws there, especially regarding the Cyborg character.
Yeah.
And it brings a whole different lens on, all the Ray Fisher stuff that's been going on over the years. Like, there's a whole new perspective to it that's like, this is weird. But let's get into the movie. And I love how this movie starts right off the bat with, Batman's going. He's already on his mission, right? He's getting the League. There is no Superman with the mustache CG'd out looking weird. You're right into the movie, and it starts moving, and the pacing is great. And we get introduced to Steppenwolf, and I love the design of Steppenwolf, man. I was kind of like, when we saw the first trailer, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna like that suit, but dude, it kills. It kills, and I love the way that it feels like it's a living, breathing suit.
It's a really impressive CGI job, I think. And there's a lot of, I think, impressive CGI stuff happening to me, but I think for his design specifically, just like the work that like went into his face alone, like just to see him like, I don't know, looks like a wild animal, and then you see like the rest of the suit, like just like it's like very subtle movement, even if he's just like talking to someone, but you still see, like you said, like it's still like reacting or whatever. I was like, that's so cool. That's so like, yeah, Steppenwolf's design, like again, like it's such a great, like this was what it was originally intended, and it's like that was such a really cool way of portraying the character, especially since like, he's in some ways is just like the first wave. Like, there's still Darkseid, but like he still looked really well, and I think he was executed really well.
And he's way more intimidating in this film than he was in the 2017 version.
Like looking back, because I did rewatch the 2017 version before this just to see like his dialogue is just so much better, and Ciarán Hinds delivers it so much better. Like, I don't know, it's just like there's an actual, like, again, like animalistic quality to him, like a very like wounded, like his pride's wounded, his like, he's been banished from Apocalypse, and now he's like fighting to get back. I was like, this guy's desperate, and I feel that like really like fierce quality coming out of him. And it just came off executed so much better.
Yeah, and they give him a motivation right off the bat. It's clear, it's to the point, and a villain doesn't have to be super complex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A villain can just be like, this is the villain's motivation. It's very clear. He seems you can tell that he's very determined, and it seems authentic. And we will buy that villain, and we can fear that villain, and we can get scared about a protagonist fighting that villain. And they really do such a better job of accomplishing that when they come to the Amazon, that's my favorite sequence in the film, my favorite fight sequence.
That's fair.
I liked it in the first one, though I couldn't get over how bad Steppenwolf's CG was, and it just killed me. And that's one of the reasons this one was so much better. But the game, it's like the Olympics, right? And it's like a relay race, and they're trying to relay the mother box so that the Legion is getting there in time, and the Legion doesn't make it in time. So you're going against the clock. It's a relay race. Steppenwolf's coming, and he seems like this unstoppable being. I just was so blown away by that.
It's funny because like arguably that's one of the few things that kind of made it over from like Snyder's original intentions to the 2017 version. But like here, just like, I don't know if it was like the color grading, the score, I don't know if it was like against Steppenwolf's CGI, but like there was such a higher level of like stakes and intensity. I particularly love the shot where like the mother box like prison like falls into the water, and Hippolyta's like looking over, and there's like it's like dead quiet, and you're just waiting, and then like they all just come shooting out of the water, and like it's like round two again. It's like, oh my god, like just for that like split beat of like just quiet, and you're like, he's like, are they gone? Is it over? But like no, and he comes back in like full force. I always love a good scene where like the villain like throws down and like establishes right off the bat. It's like, no, yeah, this guy can take on whoever the main hero is. And Yeah, that was a great just intro scene for him, and also just a reminder that like, yeah, the Amazons are legit. They know, they're totally like, they held their own really well, I think, against him. I don't know. I love the Amazon, so that was just a cool matchup again to see.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I'm a big person of like power levels and
Mhm.
consistency on that sense.
Mhm.
And when we see the flashback, which comes back, and we'll talk about this next because we're not going to go in order. It's 4
Yeah.
hours.
Mhm.
Jumbled thoughts, man. Jumbled
Yeah.
thoughts. But when we see the flashback to what was Darkseid's name before?
Euxis, like his
Yeah.
yeah, Euxis was his name. I hope I'm pronouncing
Um,
that right.
right. Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. But when Euxis comes for Earth to
Mhm.
basically win over Earth, like it makes sense that that's like the same power level that the Amazons were at then that they are now. I'm like,
Yeah,
all right, that makes sense because in a lot of films there's like power convenience. You know what I mean?
for sure.
And
Yeah.
there's none of that in this film, and I really love how they use that. Zach's a really smart director,
Mhm.
um, and he puts such detailed thought into each scene that I was really blown away by that sequence, everything that happens, the lasso, shooting
Mhm.
that arrow just to get it out in time. And you're right, the color grading in this scene and in every scene in this film is so much better, and
Mhm.
it makes the look of and the feel of the film just significantly more interesting from a visual standpoint.
Yeah.
I was super happy with it. But let's get into that flashback scene because this one is like an extended version of the one we got in the 2017. There's some stuff that's changed. Of course, obviously, it's Darkseid and not Steppenwolf as the main person there.
Yeah.
Nick, what were your thoughts on that sequence?
I was just like beautiful to like unfold. I mean, Zach's great. We all know Zach's like, if there's one thing everyone can agree on, it's like he's a visual person. And just watching just like it was a complete like Lord of the Rings like epic like just sequence of like everyone like fighting. I thought it was just really cool. They showed a few more shots of the original Green Lantern of Earth, which I thought was awesome. And just seeing Darkseid, who I also think at least Euxis pre-Darkseid mode, he like I thought CGI looked great on him there too, and like just it was just like an epic like moment. I love how he chose to like give the Zach gave this DCEU like a very like mythological history and feeling, and I think that battle sequence just really sells it so well.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I was not convinced. We talked about this on episode. I'm like, this doesn't need to be rated R. Like, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
Not gonna lie. I watched the film and I was like, it's metal. It's like I like it rated R.
Mhm.
Does it need to be rated R? I will still say no because there are people who won't show this to their kids
Yeah.
because of a scene at the end
Mhm.
in this scene.
Yeah, you know, it's funny.
Uh,
Like when I was watching it, I was like, maybe just because like I've seen more stuff, so I was like desensitized to it. But even I was like, oh, like I was like, oh, like it doesn't even really feel like a rated R. Like he went like he tried to make it edgy or whatever. It's like no, it's just for the fact that like he broke the F-bomb counter, like just win one over, and then you just see again just Steppenwolf being Steppenwolf and like really like, and the rest of Apocalypse like just like throwing down. So I mean like I don't know. It felt weird because I was like, this doesn't feel like a rated R, but like you could see the moments of like, oh, that's why they earned the rating.
and there's one at the end. There is one at the end.
Yeah.
Um, but I really love the scene. I love the lore. I think I'm still not thrilled with Gal Gadot giving voiceover. Um, her voiceover, like her narration, the dialogue is fine. It's just like the way she does it isn't necessarily the most. I don't know. The delivery
I
wasn't quite there for me.
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Um, but other than that, dude, visually it was awesome. There were a few shots of I can't remember which Greek god it was, the one who's shooting the lightning
I was
bolt.
probably Zeus then.
Zeus,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There are a few CG shots there, and there are a few CG shots throughout this where you're like, oh, this is, it's not quite perfect, but those are just little nitpicks, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think what else in the early parts of the film we want to cover. Nick, is there anything from
Um,
like the first
Early
chapter
stage,
too?
the first 5-ish, more, I think it's more realistically like 2-3 minutes. The opening sequence is beautiful. I think like I was so like I didn't know how this film was gonna start, and when like it showed like the end of the Doomsday fight, and it has that like kind of like 360 like around like Superman and the lightning's going, and I was just like, this is like this is so Zach. This is like 100% him, and just the whole like his screams are like, and you see it like really like affect the rest of like the world and like Atlantis and Amazons, and like even Cyborg like reacts. Like I just thought that was like a great way to open up the film. And if you do like a marathon of like the path of Man of Steel and BVS, and like it's so cool just to watch. Like it just picks up right there. I thought that it reminds me a lot of like when BVS starts from Man of Steel's end, but from Batman's perspective. It's like I don't know, just really cool to see that all link up. It was just a beautifully shot sequence.
And they really feel like they flow right into each other, right?
Yeah.
Like Man of Steel flows right into Batman v Superman timeline wise. It's literally right after another, right?
Something like there's like a year, maybe a few months ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like close.
But story wise, it literally is like it ends at one place and it picks up right there from a different perspective in Batman v Superman. And then this one, by having that opening sequence, it does that very same thing, which I thought was really smart. And it gives that connective tissue that helps flow throughout the film. I want to get into Cyborg's character though. Man, I still think Cyborg is so cool. I thought he was cool in the last one growing up. If you watch like Teen Titans Go, you're like, that dude's awesome. But this iteration of Cyborg in the 2020 film is going to bring up so many questions to Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon in particular as well. Because he's the heart of the film, man. He is like the breathing.
Yep.
He is the biggest story arc, and it's such an emotional arc, and it's so well done.
Yep.
You know, from the football scene to the car crash and the pacing of everything. Man, I was such a fan.
And it's what Zach's been saying. It's what Ray's been saying. It's just like, and his character, his character and Superman's were affected the most, I feel like, by the reshoots. And it's just like, you could have reshot, like Batman was obviously affected, but it's like, he's like, in some ways, like he's not the most critical character. It's like, you affected the most critical character in the movie. And yeah, I agree. I love Cyborg. I think he's so cool, and he's such an appropriate character for, I feel like, right now when we're like all like online and like, interconnected, and like I just loved his arc with his father. I think that was just done really well. I loved Ray's performance. I loved just how they really did, like, by the end they built him up as like one of the most critical members of the team. And I love that we got to see a proper Cyborg story in full from Ray.
Yeah. Let's move on to not Ezra Miller, the character's name, Flash's introduction.
Mm-hmm.
The scene, I know it's not his very introduction, but the scene where he saves that woman in the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was such a cool scene because you could never have seen the Flash before in anything or in the 2017, and it tells you so much about the character, right? He sprints out to save this woman that he thinks is really beautiful, obviously. And it's that moment where she's falling in slow-mo and how delicate he is with her, right?
Yeah, it's such a great introduction by means of action. Like, I feel like people have to like always like, you have to introduce them through like some sort of witty dialogue or something. But it's like, you see so much about like him right there. Like you said, yeah, exactly, like that. Like, it's such like a weirdly peaceful moment. Like, he's like he's in control of everything, and the way he like just like looks at her, and like I noticed like rewatching this scene, he's not even like touching her. He's more like guiding her down. And I thought that's like, again, just Zach's level to detail about the powers of the character. But just like he slowly just like kind of like positions her and like guides her down to the ground. And he just like sprints back in. It's just really beautiful. I love the shot where he like pokes the glass or whatever. Like, it even looks like the glass like liquefies like just by sheer power. And that's the other thing too. Like, you get a sense for his power level right there. Like his shoes literally disintegrate. Like on
Yeah.
the first move he makes, like already you're like, this guy is like really just has a high power level, and it's such an exciting sequence. Even though bits of it were shown in the trailer, like it's still exciting.
Yeah, that shot where the glass liquefies and then like becomes a solid again, because it's like it's literally dealing with it, and then the glass is heated up. It just looks so awesome. And Zack Snyder does have a problem where he shows too much stuff in slow mo. I will say that. But there are moments, and this scene is the one because it's the Flash, where it makes visual sense to do it, and it looks so awesome. And it's such smart filmmaking and screenwriting to write a scene like that your actions demonstrate the power of someone as well as the character and the type of person they are, as they're like gently caressing this person down so that they don't literally run through them or like kill them from force.
Right.
um it was just a really smart opening scene, and it really stood out to me. This is going to be like a 2-hour review at this pace.
Okay.
We can't all move at the speed of the Flash, but
Yeah.
let's move on to Gal's opening scene, because this was similar to Justice League in 2017, but it was better.
Again, it's like the Amazon scene. It's like that scene was relatively unchanged, but just here, like with a few, I guess, original restorations, the color grading, the score, it just goes so much better. Like even like what she says at the end to the bad guy, he's like, I don't believe it, and he's like, what are you? And she's like, oh no, she says something like, believe it, or like she gives some sort of like much more wittier comeback.
Believe
and
it.
then there's the whole scene where she's just like, yeah, and then she like goes back and like actually checks on everyone. I was like, that's Wonder Woman right there. Like that's like that right there is also another where I'm like, you see so much from the character just through the action. She completely annihilates the guy with no hesitation, but she still like checks in and makes sure it's like everyone okay, and she like sits down with that one girl to like talk. I was like, that's Wonder Woman right there. That's great.
Yeah. And that's what blew me away. That 30-second ending of the scene, right? Where she goes and she crouches down so she's eye level with the kid. And she's like, are you okay? And she's like, can I be you when you grow up? Like when I grow up? And she's like, you could be anything you want to be. That's Wonder Woman. And I'm like, how did they cut that 20 to 30-second sequence from the 2017 movie? Who was the editor who was like, you know what's a great idea? Cutting the most important part of the scene.
We've been asking that since that, like, it's like, man, I have to give, I'll give, there's like, I just have to give Warner Brother, wish them good luck for the upcoming weeks, because they're going to get so much crap in the next few weeks. My God. But yeah, it's just like, it's just really great direction, just really great understanding of the character between Zach, between Gal, and just like, again, like a lot of, these characters, the introduction scenes are structured in a way where like, these characters like instantly. You may have not seen Batman v Superman or Wonder Woman or like anything, but like you see this and you're like, I know what this person's like all about. And that's just great. Similar with Aquaman's first scene with Batman. That's another one that's like kind of unchanged, but it just feels better in the small town, just like goes off on his way. All the characters are just like introduced in such a perfect and reasonable way, and it never like feels like it's taking too slow to show everyone. It feels like all like just the pacing is just goes so well to introduce everyone.
Yeah, and it's so hard to remember this movie, man. I'm normally really good at remembering movies right after, but when you watch a 4-hour movie, recapping is not as easy as you think. Let's get into some of the other stuff, because we've gone to everyone, I believe, of the main heroes. Obviously not Superman, but he doesn't show up till way later.
I'll interject for a second. I love the lines between Batman and Alfred in this movie. I don't know why. And like I already enjoyed their dynamic in BVS, but this one I was like, this is seriously one of the most underrated Batman Alfred like portrayals. I was like, they're so like, you just see that like these two are so like in tune with each other, and I just like there's such a natural humor. That's the other thing too. This movie has has humor, but it doesn't feel like forced. It just feels like a lot of just like natural reactions. Like I love when Bruce is like, if I had $1 for every possibly, and Alfred's like, you'd be even more insufferable. It's just like they're so in tune with each other. When he's fixing up the ship later and he's like, do we have a chance? And Alfred's like, you mean a chance in hell this is gonna fly? No. Like it's very like I love the lines between the two. It's just so nice. And just so nice to see again, like to track Bruce from BVS into this film. Like another line he gives to Alfred is like, how do you know he'll come? Faith, Alfred, faith. It's just like this guy is completely is in a different mindset from BVS, and that's just so cool to see.
Yeah, it is, and it makes sense for the character, and that relationship is so awesome.
Mhm.
And Snyder said this movie wasn't really going to be funny.
Mhm.
It's definitely funny, but it picks and chooses its moments.
Yeah, it just feels like executed naturally. Like I don't know, that scene where Alfred's like, it was Master Bruce's idea to have like gauntlets infused, and what Diana's like, maybe you should look into a lasso in black as well. I was just like, oh, that's like just them like poking at each other, but it's never overbearing, or it's never like, I don't know, like awkwardly
Right.
indicated.
Right. And then there's scenes like Ezra Miller and Cyborg are digging up Superman at the grave. And Ezra Miller's talking about like, do you think like Wonder Woman would be into Diana would be into like a younger man? And Cyborg's like, she's 5,000 years old. To her, everyone's a younger man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a funny way of doing it. The way that it's frankly pretty inappropriate, kind of the way that Joss did that sort of jokes between Wonder Woman and Flash and
for sure
the original Justice League. Like that's how you handle it with like properly, like a joke like that. That's funny. The other way, like it was handled in other Justice League, is just like, come on, man.
A lot of
We're
the
not
humor,
in the 50s.
Yeah, a lot of the humor was just very like ham-fisted in the 2017 version, but like here, it's just the characters reacting to each other. It's never like, even during like the big Justice League versus Superman battle, and like Flash accidentally knocks into Aquaman, and Aquaman just like points at him, like, and Flash is like, I'm so sorry. Like it's just the characters like interacting with each other. Yeah, I don't know, the humor flowed really well. I just also wanted to jump quickly. This might be its own thing, but like I really enjoyed Ezra a lot more in this movie. And arguably he's the one that was like kind of like not changed like at all, really. But like again, and not to say I didn't enjoy him in the 2017. I thought he was pretty funny in the original, but like in the 2017 version. But in this one, he just seemed so much more, again, natural. And I think so much more like, I don't know, his place and dynamic with everyone just felt more organic and like realistically like included, and he just felt so much more. I just enjoyed like so much of his lines and his story more in this one than I did in 2017.
Yeah, and I think this theme of misfits being brought together really comes through in this film.
Yeah.
I really feel like they're all misfits, right? And it's very much a point of emphasis of the film. But let's get back to Steppenwolf. I really love Steppenwolf as a villain in this film. You can't tell. And his relationship with Desead and Darkseid. I love this stuff. We're really skipping around. I'm going to go straight to what was it? Something life formula?
The anti-life equation.
Anti-life equation, which he finds is on Earth. And what seems like a kind of dreamish sequence when he's pushing the mother boxes together to create the unity. I thought that, and then his relationship talking to Darkseid, I'm like, all right, Darkseid is a real villain that you do not want to mess with. Like this is the boss's boss, and Steppenwolf's going head to head with the Justice League. Yeah, what is Darkseid going to be capable of?
That's just great, like villain prep in a way. Like we've established like Steppenwolf is a legit threat. Like he's established that like not even barely an hour into the movie, this guy is legit. And then here is someone that even he's like kind of like scared or at least wary of, and you're like, that's intense. And I think they just included Darkseid like really well. It's never overbearing, but just like an acknowledgement of like there's more to this guy. And I love the interactions between the three. It feels something out of like, this might be a wrong comparison because I've never seen it, but it feels like something kind of out of Game of Thrones of like, no, you talk to me first. And then Steppenwolf in the second meeting is like, no, I want to speak to him now. And the dark side finally shows up and it's like, oh my God, he got his attention. It's just like, it was just really cool that they managed to have that like side mythology amidst the league coming together. And it was still just really interesting to watch. It was like its own political like intrigue, again, very, very Game of Thrones, from my understanding of Game of Thrones.
No, I think that's accurate. And it just creates this dynamic that brings this broad idea of the future of what's going to come next, which either will be at the end of this video or in a video of its own, because it may be a whole separate thing.
Right.
But let's keep moving along. We got those awesome scenes with Steppenwolf. Get him fighting in Atlantis, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool the way he fought underwater.
That was the moment that I was like, one, Steppenwolf CGI is really good again. And also like, I was like, this is just way cooler of a sequence, was when Mara like forms the air bubble and she's like, are you trying to run away? And she's like, no. And then she like sucks the water. I was like, whoa, like, how did you like, that was scene is literally 5 seconds. And I was like, why would you cut it? Like, it's badass from Mara. And it's like just a visually cool, like display of like the Atlantean powers. And again, I thought Steppenwolf, I think especially because like he was on a dry surface, like the CGI really, the work they did on him really stood out. I was just like, this is so badass. This is so cool.
I think that scene's so cool because when he gets, they make the bubble, she makes the air bubble so he drops, right? So he's farther away. And then later on, he has her against the wall and she's literally sucking the water out of his body.
Yeah.
Right. So he's dying. She's like killing him. And I'm like, that is such a cool thing. It's something I thought of like, why didn't they do this in Aquaman? That's the first thing I would do if I had the power to like manipulate water like that. And she's doing that. And I'm like, yes, that is awesome. And Steppenwolf, you see like a half second of just like desperation of like, oh my God, like I am in over my head.
Yeah.
And he just tosses her to the side and you're like, ooh.
And that's another cool thing too, now that you bring it up. It's like Steppenwolf like took some hits from the Amazons. He took a hit from Mara. It's like, okay, this villain is not all like mighty and like, invulnerable until like the third act when he somehow like loses that invulnerability for it. Like it still felt realistic, like, oh, okay, he can still get scraped up, but he's still like serious of a threat. That whole fight was just crazy to watch.
And that's what's so smart. They make it, the villain seems almost unstoppable, but each scene feels like he can be stopped, right? A lot of films struggle with that the villains just, they are too powerful until the very end when something miraculous happens. It's like, no, they're setting up, he's very difficult to beat. He will outsmart you. He's just stronger than you. But like, he is beatable. And I love how that's done throughout the film. I'm a sucker for a great villain, and I think Steppenwolf is a great villain. Yeah. And the setup with Darkseid is even better than Thanos, I'd argue, in the MCU.
Yeah, like it's because like think about it, Thanos is like build up didn't start until like 2017 with Guardians 2 and Nebula like kind of was like talking about him. Beyond that, like you had to do your research to know what the deal was. But like here you're like, okay, so there is, not only is this guy scary, but there's a guy that's scarier out there. And again, it's so crazy to think about, like, because Steppenwolf is at essence just another conquering villain, but they added such a great storyline to like surround him with that it makes him stand out really well. And again, to give props to CR and Hines, like I don't know if they did something, they edited his voice either for this one or for 2017, but like his voice was so much scarier in this one. Just more like again, like just fierce and like ferocious. I was like, this is just great. This is redemption for this character in particular. Everyone was hyped for Cyborg's redemption, but I was like, I'm here for Steppenwolf's for sure.
Yeah, let's get moving. What's the next plot point you want to hit in this film?
I'm trying to because like we have gone like out of order. I'm just trying to like track everything. I guess at this point we have we have to talk, I guess, touch on Superman, and then like that could lead us into the third act discussion.
Oh, I
Final
got you.
act.
Let's go on Martian Manhunter first,
Oh, fair
and then
enough.
we'll
Yeah.
lead that into Superman.
All right,
So
sounds good.
we get the scene between Lois and Martha,
Yeah.
who ends up being Martian Manhunter, which is a really nice scene on its own. Like it's a cool scene. Like you could have cut that out of the film and I would have been fine though.
Mhm.
But I was like, oh, that's a cool design. And as someone who doesn't know anything about Martian Manhunter, I'm like, what is this person's game? Because at first
Yeah.
I thought Martian Manhunter was a villain, right? You hear the name and it sounds like a villain name.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I'm like, oh, this person's a good guy. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I
No,
was
go ahead.
that scene was just really cool. She was there and I was like, this is it. Is this the one? And then you just to see her like, and even though you did transform back into General Swanwick, just like the split, like after seeing that design, I was like, wow, you look like they did, like I thought that was a really cool, like, yeah, again, really cool design on Martian Manhunter. Um, Definitely like, I know the actor Harry Lennox was like, there should be a Martian Manhunter movie. And even this one, even though he's been like 2 scenes, I'm like, dude, I'll campaign for a Martian Manhunter movie. I was like, there's so much to explain with just that alone. Um, yeah, it's just a cool scene, just another of like Snyder slowly introducing more of the DC amidst other stuff. But it's like it doesn't feel like it doesn't like take priority. It's just little like these characters are here, they're among them.
Yeah, let's lead that into Superman.
Mhm.
This whole idea, right? Steppenwolf has two of the mother boxes. They're trying to figure out what do we do. Batman knows that it's a losing game to just hide with the mother box away from everyone, right? Like
Yeah.
it's eventually they're gonna find it and you're gonna be done with it. So you
I
gotta
I
risk
love
big to
that.
go home.
Yeah, I love that line when he was like, "That's not a strategy. That's just a way to lose slower." I was
Lose.
like, That's
Yeah.
Batman." Yeah, 100%.
And I like it. It's in character. Batman is aggressive, right? He's smart, he's tactical, but he is aggressive and he goes and he gets it, right? He's not passive in any way.
Right.
Um, and that whole sequence of building up, Ezra Miller saying, I know no one's saying it, so I'll say it. We're
Yeah.
bringing back Superman. Like that's hilarious.
Yes, like that too. Again, an example of one, the humor working. Two, just me enjoying Ezra's. I guess I think it was nothing against Ezra's acting in 27. I have to believe it was just the lines that were given to him that he was forced to deliver, because that was a great, like, that whole scene of like them like agreeing like, okay, I guess we have to go bring him back from the dead. That was just executed so much better than in the 2017 version of like, there it felt like they were doing something wrong, but here they were like, this is like our last option. We wouldn't do it unless needed. And I just do love that line where Barry was like, hey, he kind of was like spoke the audience mind. He's like, I'm not gonna say it. Someone else has to. I love that whole like, and also like the Man of Steel's theme starts playing in the background and it like crescendos as Barry's line drops. I was like, that's awesome. That's, and Cyborg has the projection of Superman. I was like, that's so cool. That's so like, you feel like it's an epic moment that they're all like, we're gonna bring him back.
Yeah. And it leads to the point where they get the mother box, they do it, right? They get everything done.
Mhm.
And then the time starts ticking again, right? They're against the clock. And Superman's there and they go and find Superman, but Superman doesn't remember anything yet, right? Which is a little plot convenience, maybe. Um, but I went with it all the way.
Yeah.
Um, and that fight sequence is great. The color grading is better if you noticed. And I love how Superman's shooting his laser beams at Batman, and Batman's using his new technology to essentially,
Yeah.
it's not going to stop it, but it may give him an extra 5 seconds, and he like tosses it off because it's gone too hot.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool.
It's that whole like, just the added like that whole like Superman starts walking towards Batman and all the League starts throwing themselves at him because they know Batman's screwed, but like Superman just like throws them all the way. I was like, that's so powerful on his part. He's just tossing aside the league like one by one, and you just feel that like slow, like it's like a walk of doom almost, because like you're like Batman's totally screwed in this situation, and even then when he has the gauntlets, like you said, like he only has like 5 more seconds and it would have been over. But then of course, thankfully, Lois saw the whole thing and was able to come by.
I relate the scene to Thanos in Infinity War at the very end, right? He shows up in Wakanda and everyone's like on me, and Vision's at the end, and Vision is helpless and he has a stone, right?
Yeah,
And it's just like the Avengers just getting destroyed by Thanos. It's like we
yeah,
know they don't have a chance.
yeah,
It's that same sort of feeling to it, and it's really well executed. And Thor's hammer is essentially Lois.
yeah.
And the way that plays out is just really, really smart.
And like both work to the same effect of like, this is like one for Thanos, it was like, this is like how different he was already from the beginning, from how his power was. And here you're like, so this is why it's kind of like, this is why they decide to bring him back. Cause like look at the power of this guy. Look at how just easily like, and I feel like it just adds a little more weight to the decision to bring him back. Cause they're like, yeah, they were screwed. And if I was in that situation, like I'd probably bring back my ace in the hole as well if I could. Yeah, that was just a really cool to watch that whole sequence again. I'll always love the moment where like they all get on Superman, Flash goes into like flash time and Superman just like looks at him. That'll forever not be badass.
That's always iconic. Always iconic. I thought it was iconic in the last one, but this one too. There's something about a good color grade that just adds so much to a scene.
Yep.
And it really helps there and just like sell the moment a little bit more. Man, and then it leads right into Steppenwolf beaming down. And I'm like, oh, snap. Because at this point, Justice League 2017 is a little fuzzy in my mind. So I don't really remember the order of operations and how Steppenwolf got that third mother box.
I think from what you see like the boom tube open and then it disappears. Like I don't even think you see Steppenwolf. It's just assumed that, oh, he got it. Or like Cyborg infers that he's like, oh, he has all three now. You don't actually see him like touch down and like go inside the ship or whatever.
I love that scene though. I love the intercutting of Dr. Stone getting the mother box and hiding it because he knows at this point he's put together everything that's going on. He knows someone is coming for the mother boxes and he can't let them have it. So he hides it. Steppenwolf just shows up in plain sight and lands right in front of the military. He's like, yeah, step aside. I got this. And just like goes for it. And Steppenwolf, you know, he's breaking through while Dr. Stone's in that little spot in the lab, getting ready to superheat it. And Steppenwolf breaks through and he just comes out of the smoke. And I'm like, yes, this is Zack Snyder, beautiful visuals, villain entrance galore, like in all of his glory. Steppenwolf like ducks under and comes out to full size. Yeah. And there's a dread because you know Dr. Stone's not making it out at that point. And he shoots the mother box.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, that's not gonna work, right? I didn't remember. I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why is he doing that? And it has me thinking all the right questions at the right times. I'm like, oh, this is so much more interesting. Right. I will say though, when Cyborg comes in and he's trying to stall Steppenwolf, right? And I wish that moment where Dr. Stone's getting incinerated just took like a second longer, where we just got to sit with kind of like that in the moment pain of
that's fair.
Cyborg.
That's fair. That's fair. I was okay with it, but I get what you're saying. It's I think for at the very least, like just watch it felt like a lot like, do you remember from the Watchmen the movie when Dr. Manhattan's created? It felt a lot like that visually. And just seeing like that like father and like in League, father and son make eye contact and it's like a split. You see like stuff like flaking off of him before he just explodes. I know for me, I was like just really caught up in that visual particular. I was just like, oh my God, that's heartbreaking to watch, to witness.
The visual itself is awesome. It just feels like that extra second or two would have really helped me from the emotional perspective of that scene and
Mhm.
just like selling that moment like a little just I don't know. It felt like it needed just like a little bit more dread
That's
in the
fair.
build
Yeah,
up.
that's fair.
Um but Steppenwolf gets it, dips out, and then we find out mere seconds later that that's why he was superheating it,
Mhm.
so that they could track the signal. Because if you remember earlier in the film, they could heat, I can't remember, it was like some Kryptonian rock to
Mhm.
3.5 million Kelvin, the hottest thing on Earth by anyone. Throwaway line that pays
Comes back. Yeah.
comes back into the fold and becomes really important in that moment. And it's like in the audience, you should have connected it, but you didn't. And then you're like, oh, I get it now. Like now it all
Yeah.
makes sense. I love those moments. It's done really well. And that goes right into the third act of the film, right? And it creates a great transition where it kind of lacked in the original.
Mhm.
And it keeps the pacing going despite it being 4 hours, which we'll talk a little bit about pacing later. But
Mhm.
um, after that, we get the team up, right? But I think we can kind of skip over this Superman, kind of rediscovering who he is, which is cool, but it's not really all that different.
Yeah, it's I don't know, again, just color grading. I think a lot of the dialogue is just better, and it just feels nice, like just at least the stuff on the farm. On the farm, I was just like, this is just nice to see, like, he is back. I will say the scenes on the ship and when he's getting his suit back, excuse me, those scenes I think are really awesome, and I think especially in a way connects Man of Steel, BVS, and League as a sort of Superman trilogy, because you have Russell Crowe and Kevin Costner like coming, like talking in his head. You see this different suits popping up, and then you basically get like a new version of the flight sequence from Man of Steel, like where he just pops up. I think the scenes on the ship were really like really amazing to watch. I think that really connected it all so well.
And costumes aren't necessarily all that important in the grand scheme of it. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, they're gonna have a black Superman, like not literally like skin
Yeah,
color. I mean, as far as the suit.
yeah,
I know confusing Michael B. Jordan, maybe Superman,
yeah, yeah.
different story. Um, but I was like, okay, that seems kind of like unnecessary. But man, that suit looks really, really cool. It's a little bit more metallic than the original, you know what I mean, and feeling, and
Yeah.
I really like that. And just that design. And I know Snyder talked about this a lot, that like there was a very important narrative reason to
Mhm.
him long term as to why that suits the black and gray suit as
Why?
opposed to
Yeah,
the blue
the
and the red.
original, right? Yeah, I think it was definitely going to be played off in what was supposed to be like Justice League 2, Justice League 3, but I think for at the very least for right now, it's just like really just it just was so cool to see. The suit does look amazing, and I think still the whole like just nature of him like choosing to go back out there, I think was just awesome.
Yeah, and let's get into the third act, right? They find out where the mother box is, they create the plan, they're heading there, and we get straight into the action. So is there anything you want to talk
I
about before that though?
I love the little conversation Arthur and Barry has like right before they jump in, where like Arthur's like, we're asking him to like do something absolutely insane, and Barry's like, I thought you didn't care, and he's like, I never said that. And I thought like that, like I think Jason Momoa is in Aquaman in this one also just felt like he was a very subtle, much more subtle character this time around, but I still felt like he was really like, it still just felt like a better like version. I don't know, he just felt like more of like, yeah, he was still like the rugged loner, but he felt like he almost ended up becoming like a big brother figure. He's like, I don't know, he just felt a lot more like wiser, like, or at least more like aware of the situation more than I feel the 2017 version was. And just that conversation alone I thought was just really cool, like a little moment before battle. And of course, we have the line that was shown in the first trailer where Batman's like, I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells, he's never fought us, not us united. I was like, that's the whole awesome. That's a great rallying call before you go off into battle.
Yeah, I really wish that wasn't in the trailer, to be honest.
Mhm.
Because that moment in the trailer, I was like, oh, that's an awesome moment. And then in the movie, I'm like, that's still a really cool moment, but man, it was so cool the first time I saw it.
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean?
I got you.
But it's too good of trailer material not to put it in there.
Mhm.
We get into the fight scene, and Batman seems to be going on the suicide mission as a distraction. You know, that's his mind, that's his buildup. It makes sense for the character because Batman's this dude who's lived through so much pain that like suicide for a greater cause in his mind is like almost like not a he deserves that, he thinks he deserves it, but
He's
this is
willing
what
to
I
do it. He's willing to do it. He's willing to go out on that direction, which one I think still set up a really cool action sequence, just him in the Batmobile, like taking on parademons. Like I still like, and this wasn't the 2017 version, just again color graded differently, but like the scene where he like shoots down the tower, he like flips around and like the tower's coming, he's shooting it. Like that's always gonna be cool again. But and then the League comes and it's that shot, the freeze frame shot of the team. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
My mouth had dropped a few times already throughout the film until that point, but that happened. I was like, that's incredible. Like just, you know, you got Flash running, you got Cyborg flying, Wonder Woman and Aquaman jumping in. I was like, that's it. That's a money shot right there. That's the team right there. That's so it gave me chills watching that, just that shot alone. It was like a 1 second frame, but it was worth it.
Dude, it was so worth it. I was the same way. I was like, yo, like Zack Snyder, why are you so good with visuals?
Yep.
And that was justified slow-mo because there are times where there's unjustified slow-mo and it drives me nuts. But we move on and let's go all the way. Let's just skip forward because other stuff's cool, but it's not necessarily stands out towards. They start fighting with Steppenwolf, right? And it's Cyborg and it is Aquaman, and he's like, I can't remember who says round two. Another one's like, hell yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's just like such an awesome like little moment before they go into battle.
Yeah.
And they go all out.
Yeah, again, the little like they didn't like in just to draw a comparison like Avengers 1. Avengers 1 was built around like various like banter and like whatnot, but like here just very subtle like interactions of just that like by this point in the movie, you're like, no, these characters are totally like at least like they know each other and they're willing to stand with each other, and just moments like that, like that's just, it's subtle, but it feels like it builds up to this whole group. And yes, they go all out. Everyone just like dog piling on Steppenwolf. Like it's like all out, no holds barred battle.
And they're struggling with Steppenwolf, you know what I mean? Steppenwolf is just stronger than them.
Yeah.
And then they get set back a little bit, and Wonder Woman hops in over them. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, it's a fight. It is game time.
Yeah.
Steppenwolf is pissed. He looks so great when his eyes are blue too. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Like it's a whole new level of Steppenwolf, you feel like.
Yeah.
Like he is now the boss film. And it's a great action sequence.
For sure.
Every time I see it, and there's shots that I know were in the original Justice League in 2017, I'm just like, man, I wish that film never existed. Like just seeing some of the stuff, like the shots of Steppenwolf trying to hold on with his axe and climbing up, and then Aquaman jumps on the rope and pulls him down.
Yeah.
Oh, such awesome moments inside playing the game where Cyborg is just trying to get to the mother box and he can't quite get there.
And and like what's great especially is that like it felt like, and I feel like sometimes this gets lost amidst like big superhero battles, especially some of the team up ones, but like there was an actual objective at store, which I feel is like sometimes the battles can just become, oh, we have to shoot down as many of the goons as like faceless goons as we can. But here there's an actual objective, and there was like legitimate like they are struggling to achieve this objective. It was like a whole like it was like a whole like crossing Normandy thing to get Cyborg to the mother boxes, which I really enjoy, and I feel like, which of course then made Superman's entrance also all so much better when he comes in and you just feel the turn of the tide immediately.
Right. And man, Superman is OP as like can be. I I know he was strong, but he just destroys Steppenwolf in like 10 seconds.
It was I was like going crazy when like I thought Steppenwolf was gonna like tear Cyborg in half like in the original and like I thought that's what the scene was, but then Superman just like goes right in front of the axe, is like not impressed. I was like those two lines, those two words, I was like, oh my god, that is badass as hell. I was like that, and he just like yeah, he just destroys Steppenwolf. He destroys his axe in seconds, and just like him and Wonder Woman and Aquaman just beat the absolute hell out of him. It's like that's it right there. That's the most yeah. Those are our heroes. Those are the most powerful people on the game in the battlefield right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because on one hand, I'm like, oh man, the hero is so much more powerful than the villain. I'm like, that's not fun. But I'm like, oh wait, but what came before it was so cool. And it's to set up that when Darkseid will come into the equation in future films, that
Yeah,
like we're on a whole nother level.
yeah.
And I love it when Superman's just like lasering him. He he blasts
He
part of his
tears off
head
his
off.
yeah. Tears off his horn. I was like, oh my god, he is not holding back. He's just going all out on this guy.
And that's a consistent thing from this film. The heroes are ruthless in the way they deal with bad guys.
Yeah,
They don't pull punches. Gal kills that dude who's a terrorist, right?
yeah. 100. Yeah.
Um, that dude's 100% dead.
Mhm.
You know, they will not pull punches, and we'll get to this in a second
Mhm.
because we're going to go in order here. And there's just this wide shot of Cyborg going, and I think it just pushes past him, and it's just Superman standing over Steppenwolf, just like punching him on the ground, beaming him, and I'm just like, geez, this dude Steppenwolf can't catch a break right now.
Yeah.
Superman is not stopping,
Mhm.
and then the Flash is too late. You know, he gets shot, and it's like, oh god, like interesting. Was this going to be like a darker lead up into the next Justice League? Is Darkseid going to step foot? And they're going to be like, cut, and it's
Yeah.
like Justice League 2. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, is that where this is going? It legit had me there because I knew that Snyder had been thinking about Justice League 2 and 3, and I was like, that's very plausible. That could be the end point.
That's true.
And they fail, and the mother box is connecting to the Unity, and the world is starting to be destroyed. And then
I
we see the Flash. What were your thoughts on that?
I just wanted to say first, when the second like boom tube opens and you see Darkseid there, and like there's a shot where like you see him behind Wonder Woman's shadow, but like you see like him silhouetted, but it's just his eyes are like glowing. I was like, that's one of the most terrifying, like at least someone who knows like who has like read like stories with Darkseid. I'm like, that's so terrifying. He's just there, and he's just like again, like when this is the villain, like he shows up and you're like, oh shit, like excuse me, but like it's like things are getting serious, and like just seeing him there watching as like the plans falling apart, and like Steppenwolf's still getting beat up, but like everything's falling apart. Flash got shot, and Darkseid's just watching. I was like, that's terrifying. Like it's just terrifying, um, and then yeah, they lose, which I love because it helps set up one, I guess, an important aspect for Flash and Justice League 2 and 3. And then it also leads into, I've thought about this, it might be my favorite sequence of the film, which is Flash giving them the second chance.
Yeah,
I adore that moment so much. It's so I love Ezra's performance in it. I love the line he has where he's like, make your own future, make your own past. And it's so powerful, like like thematically and like just physically. He's like literally running back time, and I was like, that's interesting. That was just incredible to watch. Everything like buildings reforming, bodies reforming, like and like just the force of the mother box shockwave like going back in. I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen from a superhero movie.
that was the shot. That was the shot I was thinking of. The
Yeah,
shot where it's on Cyborg being reconstructed with the mother box, and it pushes back onto
and
character after character after character.
yeah, and then Flash just comes in. It's yeah, that whole sequence is like breathtaking. It's so cool, and it's also just really powerful. Like I've watched the CW show for like 6 seasons now, and even then I was like, I don't think even Grant Gustin's version is as powerful as this moment where Ezra's just again just running back the clock, literally running back the clock. It's so, and the music and everything, it looks great, it feels great.
And boom, we get it. They separate the mother box. They call in Superman. They break it apart. There's no joke about the forces. It's like they just broke it apart. And then there's Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
And they they basically knock him up, knock him through the portal, and Wonder Woman she went for the head. She didn't pull a Thor.
Oh,
She went for the head straight off. I was like, they're not going to show him getting decapitated, are they? And I was like, they can insinuate it, but they can't really show it. They don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And then they cut to the dark side, and it's just Steppenwolf's body comes through, bounces, his head bounces up to dark side. And Darkseid just stomps the head and crushes it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and again, just another great moment of like character action. Like, even if you don't know who Darkseid is, just the way he's so casually, just like he's been watching his lieutenant just get his ass handed to him, and then he gets his head and he's just like, that's it. And he's like, he doesn't even care. He goes immediately to just planning his thing next. Like, that's just a great, like, you learn so much. That tells you so much about the character right there. That simple boot stomp is vicious and violent and insane.
And I'll have to lean on you a little bit here because I do have some plot hole-ish questions, maybe. I don't know. Because I don't know how Darkseid is in this universe, or if he's from another universe and there's some way to connect like one universe to another.
Yeah.
But like, why can't Darkseid in that moment jump through the portal if Steppenwolf could go through the other side?
I don't think it was a matter of Darkseid unable to like jump through. I think it was more of him like just being curious and like sitting back. I think it was just like, because I think in that, especially in that second meeting between him, Desaad, and Steppenwolf, like he shows like open contempt for Steppenwolf. So I think it was more of a matter of like just sheer curiosity than like physical like inability. He's just like watching like, let's see what happens here. And then I think that's why the whole shot where he and the League stare down and he purposefully like chooses not to make a move. I think that was just him being like a tactician more than him being like like him being unable to do something. I think it was him more being like, okay, I see what's over there. Now I just need to figure out how to address that. Then
right.
I think there's more of like that per se.
Right, because we know Darkseid you can't mess around with, because there was that scene before of like an alternate future. And that's the one scene where the CG was bad. Like the CG was legitimately bad on Darkseid.
Which one?
It's where Darkseid uses the Omega beams.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's underwater, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
And I was like, one, as someone who doesn't know anything about Darkseid, like those laser beams are OP as hell. They have aimbot. Like that's cheating in a video game type stuff.
They're in the Injustice video game, and they're one of the most annoying things I've ever had to put up with, because you can just send them at any point, and those things are ridiculous.
But we see how he breaks Superman, and there's this whole through line throughout the film that's leading towards Justice League 2 and 3 of Lois.
Yeah, like
how Lois is important. And you're starting to get that, and you really get it at the end.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, Darkseid kills Aquaman really easily, just stabs him through. Wonder Woman is like a sacrifice so that the rest of the Amazonians can live. It's like, this dude is the most powerful by far.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it seems like he could just step through that portal and kill all of them, including Superman, easily.
I think, again, I think it was just more of him being a tactician and a strategist instead of just like charging into it. He was just like, I'm gonna wait, and we're gonna plan this properly. And I think it was just more of that, just like him being like, because they don't close the League doesn't close the door, he closes it himself. So I think it's just him like, I'll be back, but I'm gonna come back researched and prepared.
Right.
Around.
Yeah, he's the coach who just got the scouting report. He's gonna
Yeah,
review the tape and then come back with a game plan.
pretty much. Yeah.
Um, I I think it's really cool, and the lead up is really cool, and that's what I want to talk about more than anything. Because the last thing I want to talk about in this film isn't any of the other Superman or Martian Manhunter stuff. It's Batman's last scene with Joker, which
Nightmare
goes
scene.
on too long, right? It's too long of a scene. I'm like, you could have cut some stuff, but it's really important.
Yeah, I think the nightmare, because from my understanding, the nightmare, the second nightmare sequence is the was what he was that was the new footage he was filming that we covered way back when. So I do know he said recently like he did purposely like write Jared Leto in just so like he could be like DCEU Batman and DCEU Joker has shared a scene together. They've actually interacted. So I think I could kind of excuse him maybe like indulging a bit then if because he was like, this is my last film. Let's just put Batman and Joker together and like so we can look back and be like, yeah, they had the one scene together.
Right. I don't have a problem with them both being in the same scene. In fact, I think it works really well.
Yeah.
I just think it like some of the dialogue just like back and forth
Okay.
just could have been cut out, and it would have
That's fair.
helped make the scene a little bit more succinct. This is the film side of me, like not the cool fun side of
Yeah,
me,
no, don't
essentially
worry.
coming
No.
out.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point, and it's like Lois. This is why Lois is the key, because Lois dies and Superman goes mad, and now he's helping Darkseid, or it
Yep.
makes him so he can be controlled by Darkseid.
Mhm.
He's like, that's the problem. And Batman comes to this realization. He meets Martian Manhunter, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, does this build up a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Um, do we want to get into now as we wrap this up the future of like what this film set up as opposed to what we think?
And just one last thing I wanted to say: the score is really freaking well. Like Junkie XL and I think Hans Zimmer helped a little. That was a great score, particularly the like the main Justice League theme, the what's it called, the Crew at War Power or whatever. Like just the scene that the stuff they had during battle and during that closing moment where Martian Manhunter's flying away. That theme's so great, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So powerful, and just they use it in all the right moments. They don't overdo it.
I'm like 90% in on the score.
Okay.
There's some times where it feels a little too rock, metal, heavy metal type score.
Okay, I got you. That's fine.
But I do agree for the most part the score is on point.
Mhm.
Let's go into what the future could have held, right? If the Snyderverse originally was. I think we'll make a separate video on what would be the best way to move forward for DC.
DC, yeah.
But obviously, Snyder was setting up the Injustice League. Is that correct? Is that the villain
Yes,
league with Lex Luthor?
it was gonna be Justice League. Well, one, the Lex Deathstroke scene was gonna set up Affleck's solo film.
Right.
And I think they were also counting on a Flash solo film. And then the Flash solo would have introduced Captain Cold, Batman solo would have introduced the Riddler, and then Lex would have assembled those two, Ocean Master and Black Manta from Aquaman, and then Dr. Poison from Wonder Woman, and then they would have like totally like wrecked the league in Justice League 2. It would have been like I think like that from my understanding of the storyboards he released, that's what he was intending for Justice League 2 is going to be like the first act is like the league kind of like adjusting. Second act is second into third act is just the villains like coming for each of their rivals and like taking them out.
I think that was a cool setup. The setup for Darkseid is really cool. The Batman setup is awesome. And I've heard the pitch for that movie, and I really want to find a way to read the script because I've heard it's an amazing script. And the pitch of how they were going to do that film with Ben Affleck directing sounded next level. It sounded like it could be the best Batman film we've ever seen.
It will be the only way they can, outside of actually giving Ben Affleck some sort of solo project, the only way they could possibly like address that missed opportunity is just bring back Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. because otherwise that would be one of the biggest. I'll look back and be like, that was one of the biggest gaps, missed opportunities they could have had. Like Batman versus Deathstroke and the Riddler in a psychological like chess match. I've been like, oh my god, that'd have been so crazy to see. And yeah, it's been crazy.
I would have been 2,000,000% there for it.
Mhm.
But was there anything else? I think we kind of covered everything that the the
Uh,
Snyder Cut was supposed to set up.
it was just and then Justice League 2 would have had like Darkseid winning essentially, and then Justice
Right.
League 3 about them trying to fix that failure. And like showing that like nightmare timeline come to life in full, not no longer a dream. So yeah, I was surprised. I thought it like he set up so much while still like ending the film in a place where I was like, okay, this is like can be its own product still, but like there's still like a lot of like prep for the future happening. And um yeah, there's so much that he originally planned, so much that like I don't know, they could do. I guess that'll be our other videos. So gotta see how it goes, how the future goes.
Yeah, I mean, going into our final thoughts, my only complaint is that it's too long, frankly. Like there is still stuff. I'd have to watch it again to figure out exactly what.
Yeah.
Um, but there's definitely a good 20 to 20 minutes, I'd say, about that could have been cut.
Mhm.
But I'm fine with it being there because it's a chapter approach. It's almost like a mini series.
Yeah.
But I do have questions, and there's so many questions I could have about the Snyderverse of like an
Yeah.
in theater movie that could make money and on one side and like a 4 hour cut on the other. Like I'm
Yeah.
so curious what this would have looked like if it was supposed to go into movie theaters.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Um, but overall, I really love the film. I think it's the top. I haven't seen a ton of 2021 films that
Yeah.
are
I mean,
like
there's
past
just
the Oscar season.
we're
So
still early. We're still early in the
yeah,
year.
yeah.
Um,
But I think it's a great superhero movie. I'm willing. I don't use the word great for superhero movies a lot, even and well, not superhero movies, for movies in general.
yeah.
But this is a great superhero movie. I really enjoyed it. Nick, what did you think about the film?
I concur. Like it's everything I could have like wanted of just like I finished it. I was like the Justice League just happened before my eyes, and I was like I saw all of my heroes like come together, and it felt right this time around. I was like what more can anyone ask? I too think I think it's like hovering there at the top right now. It's like battling it out with like I don't know Judas Black Messiah or whatever. But yeah, no, it's great. It's just so this is so like you could feel Zach's confidence with it. This is just everything restored. It's such wild ambition on such a crazy scale. And yeah, I'm what more can anyone ask? We saw Superman, Batman fighting with Wonder Woman and Aquaman. It's epic stuff.
It is. With that, that wraps up this review. Let us know what you thought in the comment section below. What moments did we miss? Because I'm sure we missed a lot. What were your favorite moments, favorite characters? What would you have looked forward to seeing next if this had come out in 2017 and we had still gotten the whole Snyderverse? Let us know. Let us know if you still want the Snyderverse. I think I'm down for it, Nick. I think you're probably down for it too. Tell us all that in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. I'll see you next time.
Peace out.